weekend, everybody, and welcome inside the VIBELAND Sports Studios. I'm Todd Miller, along with Casady Fletcher and Kelby Peterson. It is a bonus take from the NBA Finals here from VIBELAND Sports. Let us give you a little bit of a history of how the sausage is made here on this podcast. When we pick our different topics from week to week, we try to do things on Monday that can have a 7-day shelf life. Last night, when Game 5 was going on, we had all determined that if the Toronto Raptors had won the championship, we were going to do a bonus take on the Raptors winning their first ever title. Things changed. And it was a bigger change than had the Toronto Raptors won the Larry O'Brien trophy. It has to do with Kevin Durant going down in Game 5 after a Herculean first period of play. 10 points. KP, I'm going to let you start with your discussion because I think all of us in this room have mixed emotions about it. We're all NBA fans, some bigger than others. We respect KD as a player. We may not have liked the way he left Oklahoma City, but I'll be the first to admit I hated to see what happened last night. Your take on what went down with KD?
Yeah, you absolutely hate to see anybody get injured. You hate to see the best player in the world right now get injured, especially. So like you said, Todd, he just came out on fire. I mean, I saw him before the game. I wondered, okay, is he fully ready? Is he come back too early? Is he forcing it to be a competitor and be there for his team, which I thought was an excellent move on his part. We'll get to that in a little bit, but I saw him before the pregame dancing, doing his pregame dance routine. Then I see him on the pregame on the court doing that weird spinny jump shot pregame routine where he just spins in circles. So he looked like he was putting his legs to the test, and I thought this was interesting. I don't pretend to watch a lot of Warriors games this year, so I don't know how many times he's done this, but he went up for the jump ball. He took the jump ball off the tip, and they had to re-jump because he elbowed Marc Gasol in the face. I was like, that's weird. They're going to let him jump again. So he jumps again. So I'm like, okay, I feel like he's been through the ringer here as far as you can go in terms of a test. He seems to be ready. In that first quarter, he sure looked to be ready and looked to be A-okay. I mean, that was a gutsy performance. 3 for 3 from threes to start the game. I was sitting there with my jaw on the ground, marveling at what a performance this was. This was going to be talked about. I was sitting there thinking his legacy is going to be changed forever tonight because of the performance that he's putting on. He's going to put all those rumors and speculations to rest of he doesn't care and he's, just all in it for him because he seemed to be putting it on the line for his team last night. And then to see him go down really early with that second quarter injury is just kind of really disappointing to watch. But then the takes and the speculations and the story changed even more so.
Casady, I think we all know how you feel. You are not a KD fan.
Not at all.
But in reality, should he have played? I don't think he should have played. In fact, somebody had asked me before Game 5, do you think Kevin will play again? I said no. You just were not getting good reports from the Warriors that he was making enough progress to lead you to believe that he was going to come back. And I really thought the barometer would be games 1 through 4. If we didn't see him in one of those first 4 games, we probably wouldn't see him at all.
That's kind of what I expected as well. Seeing the fact that he got cleared for practice, I know that early on Steve Kerr had said all he has to do to be back on the court is to make it through one practice after he's cleared. And so they did that with enough time. So I assumed at that point that he was going to play for Game 5 just based on what they had previously said. But it seemed to me like he just miraculously healed, and it just seemed like he got in there trying to help them back, whether or not he was ready or not. You could tell that early on his shot was not affected at all. My gosh, he looked just like the Kevin Durant of old, as good as has been at any point in the season. Was just a cold-blooded assassin out there. I thought he was really playing well, but look, that's what you can happen when you rush back too soon. You can have injuries like that in a critical situation, and I think he did come back a little bit too quick, and I think he told the doctors what he wanted to do rather than the doctors looking out for the player and telling him that, no, you can't get on the court.
I think when you break this down, guys, there's a lot of people to blame in this scenario, and I think KD is one of them. Mm-hmm. But you can't fault a world-class athlete that wants to get out there and play in Game 5 of the NBA Finals. You can't fault him for that at all. I fault Golden State, though, more than anybody because I truly believe, and we're all Thunder fans in here, First of all, if it happened in Oklahoma City, we would have never known the severity of the injury. They would have probably called it a sprained pinky because they just don't let any information out. But I can guarantee you guys that Kevin Durant would not have allowed to do what he wanted to do and be on that floor if it had been Sam Presti and company making that decision. That's why I think Bob Myers was emotional last night. That's why I think Golden State deserves the lion's share of the blame because, let's be truthful, if they're up 3-1, he never plays in that series. They're down 3-1, and he gets in, as Casady said, on nearly a miraculous comeback.
Exactly, and I agree with you completely, Todd, about the Thunder not playing KD if he was still here. And Kendrick Perkins said it on Twitter today that he said if Kevin Durant was still in Oklahoma City, there is no way he would have played last night. So I think it's interesting and something to talk about too. Yes, we can blame the Warriors, and I think they, the media kind of played a part in it, getting inside KD's head and saying, oh, he's not tough, he can't do this. So I think KD rushed it back. But again, there's a competitor in him that I truly believe is there. When he sees his team down 3-1, they need me more than ever, and I'm going to prove that this team needs me. That's why I think he went out and played. But again, I think you totally can blame the Warriors because let's really look at how they looked at this if we're being honest with each other. It seems like, they had the control to say no to KD because they obviously had control to say no to Klay for Game 3. They said, I heard reports that Klay was ready to fight team personnel to play in Game 3, and they said, no, you're not playing. And he didn't play. And he came back and played in Game 4 because Klay's on a longer contract. Klay's been there longer. Let's stir this pot a little bit because I think it's something that can be asked about. And if you're being honest with yourself, it probably happened. And that was the mindset in the Golden State locker room and in the front office. And I want to ask you these questions. Would KD have played if Golden State was up 3-1?
No.
Not a
Would
chance.
KD have played if his contract has been longer than 1 year? If he had a 2-year contract, if he had 2 years remaining on his contract, does he play?
No. If they had him on contract next season, he's not on the court.
If he's got a contract longer than a year, so let's say he gets injured and he can sit out and still come back and play for the Warriors, and they're still down 3-1. If the contract is longer than what it is, does he still play?
No,
And they're down 3-1.
I don't think so.
I agree with
at
you
all.
guys.
I don't believe that. But I'm going to tell you what I think is to blame in this deal. First of all, I just addressed it. I think the Golden State Warriors at 75% asking Kevin Durant to go back out, or at least not to go out, to put him out there, allow him to go out there at less than 100% in Game 5 of the NBA Finals and stay with the likes of Kawhi Leonard and such. You know what you're going to get. You know that you're risking a ton of injury. So I believe the Warriors obviously are one. I think the media is two, because I think they have created a narrative, and I don't know that it's false, that KD is soft, that KD only cares about himself, that KD is not committed to Golden State, and that KD didn't care because he is out of there after this year. And then I think you blame Kevin Durant to a small degree. I don't ever blame, as I said, a world-class athlete for wanting, if you got any competitive juice at all, to want to be out there with your team down 3-1 and a chance to make history. But Kevin Durant, as KP alluded to, Casady, hears all this noise. So different things factor into his mind. I'm going to go out there and show them I am committed to the Warriors. I am not selfish. I'm not looking past this year and where I may be. And I think all those things are true, but I think they also rattled around in his head like so many things do, and that forced him to quickly get back on the court, whether he was ready or not, or whether, it was a good thing at 3-1, the deficit.
I think that's exactly right. Look, Kevin Durant came. I think that the Warriors knew when he joined them it was not going to be a long-term signing. I think everyone looked at it like, okay, he's going to come win a few championships and probably bounce somewhere else. That's kind of the way I felt like it about it, at least when I first saw when he signed with Golden State. And so for them, I think he's just an expendable piece. That
Exactly.
They know that they can win a championship with the other guys on that team. They've done it multiple times before. And, I mean, I think KD just trying to get out there and rush back, he played right into the hands for the Warriors. It's a win-win scenario for them. if he gets injured like he does, it's not any burden on them. Now, it may be a financial burden if they want to keep him under contract later, but I think Kevin went out and he might have cost himself a lot of money, and I think he might have cost himself a couple of big-time years in his career trying to battle back from this injury now, if it's as bad as people say it's going to be.
KP, I have a question for you. If you look at what Golden State has done without Kevin Durant in the finals, during this run, they are 8-9 without Kevin Durant in the finals. They are much, much better, obviously, with him on the floor.
Mm-hmm.
Does this change the narrative now that Golden State did not necessarily need Kevin Durant to win titles?
I don't think so. I think it kind of proves, I mean, they only won by 1 last night. Let's see where the end of the series is at, Todd, because in my opinion, I think Toronto goes and wins game 6 and it's over. I think Toronto takes this thing home 4-2. So I would argue that they need him. I think that's what's going to be proven because the impact that he had on that first, they won by 1 point. So his impact was felt. I mean, every point that he scored was absolutely needed. And then the fact that his team kind of rallied together and came together for him, that just to show how important he is and to go gut out a win like that. I think their game 2 victory proved that, yes, they can probably win games without him, but I think this series is going to prove they can't win at all without him. And if I'm being honest with myself, deep down inside, everything that in this playoffs that I've wanted to happen, I wanted it to lead to the destruction of Golden State, this team to be done and over with, and their reign to be over. I don't want it to be due to a KD injury. And in my opinion, guys, I think because of this, the landscape of basketball is about to change, in my opinion. Before last night, I would have told you 100% KD's gone. Now, I think I'm leaning more to the fact that he opts in and goes ahead and costs the Warriors $31 million. So, Casady, earlier what you were saying about it's kind of a win-win for the Warriors. I think there's a chance where it could not be that situation because if KD opts in next year, he's $31 million against the books, and he might not shoot a jump shot next year. So the Warriors are paying a guy $31 million just to be on their team. Or if you're Kevin Durant, there's one player out there, guys, if you're the Knicks, or if you're an NBA franchise, I think KD's still worth the risk of signing to a max contract, even coming off this devastating injury. Guys that have had this injury before, I heard some people talk about it today, really only the 2 guys that were remotely the same afterwards were Drexler did it, and then they said Kobe did it, but Kobe really wasn't the same after his Achilles injury, but a lot of that had to do with age.
Right.
That's part of the argument with KD, but is there an NBA franchise out there that's going to go offer him max money after this injury, after his Jones fracture? It's starting to be a reputation with him. He's the best player on planet Earth, so I think that's the guy you risk it for. And I think, no question, the Knicks are dumb enough to do it no matter what. But I think other teams, there's going to be a bigger hesitation than there was before to go offer him the kind of money.
I read today there's 4 teams already that are prepared to make the offer to him. So, but here's something
even after the injury.
Yep.
And that's just it goes to show what kind of player he is. So I think it's more risky today than it was yesterday.
Well, how about this? By the time he steps on the NBA hardwood, more than likely he's gone for a full calendar year. He will be just over 32 years of age. He turns 31 September the 29th of this year. So he will be just over 32 years of age, having missed a full year more than likely and coming off a very severe injury to a basketball player.
So that means Kevin Durant is going to go from a 30-year-old NBA player to a 32-year-old NBA player coming off an Achilles injury between his next 2 jump shots, more than likely.
And I still say that it's probably worth it. If you have the cap space,
you do it.
You do it 100%. And we've already seen, I think the Nets are in play here, big time.
I told you, if I am thinking about Los Angeles or New York, it's not the Lakers, it's not the Knicks, it's the Clippers or the Brooklyn Nets. Those are the 2 places I would go if I were a free agent.
Oh, 100%. And instead of going to the Knicks and trying to do it there, look, the Nets have just cleared a bunch of cap space. They have enough room now to sign 2 max players in the offseason. So if Kyrie wants to go be the man for a year while KD is rehabbing, and then for them to both join forces, it happened before.
Yep.
We saw it happen in Boston, where he just was, when Gordon Hayward goes out in the first game of the season. So He could have the whole team to himself for a year, figure it out, let KD join the year after that. That seems to me like a much better option than the Knicks.
And here's the thing too: if you're KD, a decision in this too is the next year you're going to be spending rehabbing. So what do? Do you stay with the team that you're with because you're probably comfortable with the doctors, but are you comfortable with the doctors after this just happened? Or do you go with a brand new team, brand new training staff, and that's how your image to that brand new team for a year is going to be? I mean, you're still Kevin Durant, but if you're talking about locker room chemistry and stuff, Kevin Durant's going to be the guy off with the trainers and with the training staff, getting iced up, doing rehab, not practicing, not sweating with the team. So that's another interesting perspective to look at. If you're KD, do you trust the Golden State doctors, or do you trust a new team and a new medical staff? It's going to be awkward and different for him.
One quick question on that, or answer to that. I think he must trust Golden State's doctors because they cleared him to go out and play.
Yeah.
And he went out and played.
Do you now, though? Do you trust him after this? I think that your hands are both in the air. I think Kevin Durant's doing the same thing.
I think he would still play regardless. If he had to go back and do it again, I think he would say, look, I was cleared. I wanted to play. I would play. But with Golden State or going to a different team, I say if you know in deep down in your heart of hearts that you're not going to be with Golden State long term, you go to your new team, you start to build those relationships, because even though that you're going to be off training and everything most of the time, you're still going to be around those guys. You're going to be able to sit on the sideline at those games. You're a part of the organization. Any decisions in the organization, now you're a part of it moving forward for a year.
And that's an interesting perspective too.
So that's what I'm thinking is if you want to go somewhere and you know you're heading to a new place anyways, you might as well go ahead and do it now. Just sever those ties with Golden State if he's going to leave. Now, if he's going to keep signing 1 and 2 year deals with the Warriors until his career's over, then, I mean, do that. Then go ahead and sign. But if you're leaving, like I think everyone thinks he is, and I think he even thinks he is at this point because he's listened to so much of outside forces, that I would go ahead and jump ship now.
Yeah, I mean, that's a really interesting take, man. I like what you said there. That was so another point that you made me think about too is if he does go and sign with a new team, if he's hurt, he gets to really have an opportunity to really lay roots down with that franchise, kind of be the LeBron. He gets to talk to the front office guys more. He'll probably be a part of trades and free agency and draft boards and get the behind the scenes stuff. So that's
exactly.
And that's where I think that's kind of where he's evolving towards his career. That's the next step if you're following the LeBron mold, which KD has his entire career. That the next step is to get on the other side, on the front office side of things. So that's going to give him an opportunity to do that. So that's an interesting point, Cassie.
Here's what it all comes down to, guys. I sometimes will hammer professional athletes because I don't understand what the difference between $32 million a year and $27 million a year is. Here's what it all comes down to. There's no guarantee, even in your prime, that you're going to play another game or you're going to have that next Supermax contract. So I think what happened last night with Kevin Durant validates why you see Russell Westbrook and Paul George taking these huge contracts, because they may not get another opportunity with a couple of injuries during those.
That's right.
And you never know. I mean, look at, not to bring the podcast down, but look what happened in the world this week. David Ortiz.
Yeah.
Just got gunned down. I mean, he lived, thank God, but just to what you're saying, Todd, you don't know when's the next jump shot. You don't know when the next car wreck. You're right. Take the money and get it guaranteed and live your life.
100%.
All right, that's our thoughts on the Kevin Durant situation. Tune us in throughout the summer. We're going to be dropping some bonus take podcasts as well at VIBELAND Sports.
One final thing, just want to shout out the U.S. women's national team. They won 13-0 over Thailand in their World Cup opener.
That is not a misspeak, not a typo. 13-0 women's World Cup soccer.
Largest margin of victory in World Cup history.
I'm not certain, though, that we couldn't get enough on a side for a VIBELAND Sports friendly with the U.S. women and play them better than Thailand.
Yeah, that might be true.
I don't know, man. 13, I think they would really embarrass us.
All right, for KP, for Casady, I'm Todd. That's our take on Kevin Durant from VIBELAND Sports, a presentation of VIBELAND Media.